readily available. In fact, if you try to get some of these foods when it's not the season for it, you might have to go to more than one store to put together everything. But this week, if you go to the store, the end cap displays at the end of each aisle will have enormous mountains of canned sweet potatoes and canned cranberry sauce. And there will be extra freezer sections just filled with frozen and fresh turkey and that sort of thing. It has come to be, I'm going to say, for most, largely a culinary holiday. It's a food thing for many people. And in this particular holiday, not just for the foodies, but for everyone else, it's really associated with what people eat at one meal. It comes down to one meal. And I'm not sure, there might be a connection, but somehow it gets run together in people's minds, the notion of thankfulness, gratitude, and gluttony and excess. You know, I'm going to eat so much that I pop. When I was growing up, the commercials on the 3 TV channels that existed, all 3 channels on the TV that had commercials. There was PBS. We separated that was KBIE Channel 6, and it didn't have commercials, so there were only 3 that had commercials on it. They started running Alka-Seltzer ads just before Thanksgiving. They kept running it until after New Year's. They had slogans that we would all have to say over and over and over at school when we were little guys and gals. Plop, plop, fizz, fizz, oh what a relief it is. In one year, we all had to say that and sing it over and over and over and over and over and over. And then every time there was a commercial break, you would hear this 15-second commercial where some person who looked like they were, well, he was probably a 60 or 65-year-old man, looked like he was pregnant with triplets. And he would say, I can't believe I ate the whole thing. So we all had to say that for the next couple of years. Have you ever associated Thanksgiving with thankfulness, with something actually, not a vague sense of, well, yeah, that's true, I am thankful. Because I'd sure be upset if I didn't have what I have. If something is missing, I'll have a commitment to it. At least my experience, if I get to the store and there's no cranberry sauce to buy. I mean, I go to 3 stores and it's like 2 days before Thanksgiving and it's too late to order it on Amazon Prime food. And I'm going to have Thanksgiving without cranberry. You know, Jeff Foxworthy makes fun of probably most of the people that made this last election go to the direction that it went. He said, you know, you might be a redneck when you run out of ketchup and it ruins Thanksgiving. My father will go to the refrigerator next Thursday when we sit down, and he will get the ketchup. I'm not going to get it out and put it there in advance. It's just something that doesn't belong. But he will go to the refrigerator and get the ketchup, and everything he eats will be covered in ketchup. It would ruin Thanksgiving though. Some critical piece was missing. I Imagine whatever it is you like to eat for your favorite dessert on Thanksgiving. And it's just not there. I mean, your grandparents and your parents and your siblings know that that's the thing that you love the most. It's just not there. I mean, it could ruin Thanksgiving. Is our gratitude on Thanksgiving because we're careful to make sure we've orchestrated the excess to come to a head in one meal? To remind ourselves that we have so much abundance that it's almost like having ubiquity of most resources. It's like the water faucet that we turn on. How often do you turn on the water faucet and you go, I better shut it off before I run out? Or you flip on the lights, or you plug in your hairdryer or your razor or whatever, and just, you're not going to use it up. It's just not going to happen. It's ubiquitous. It's like the air that you breathe. Clean water, electricity. I only remember a couple of times in my life, and I'm 54, where in California you could actually go from gas station to gas station and there wouldn't be gas. It would have already run out of gas. I can only remember 2 times when it did that, and that was artificial. That was manufactured. There were tankers full of crude oil off the coast being embargoed because they were controlling the prices by they were making gasoline go up from like 30 or 40 cents typically up to above $1 back in the 70s. And it required that kind of a stunt. Until then, people had been expecting that they could go and get cheap gasoline. I saw gasoline during these competitive price wars sometimes at gas stations. I saw gasoline less than 10 cents a gallon. We have come to expect that the stuff we need is on tap. If we go to Safeway, we go to the college market, and they're out of something, sometimes we swear. If we're out, we go and say something short to the grocery or the produce manager. Is there a way, when Thursday rolls around, and as we're ramping up to Thursday, is there any way that in the life and mind of a holy person, which you can be, you can categorize yourself as a holy person, holy man, holy man. And is there a way that this, like all holidays really, artificial holiday, if somebody declared we're going to do this, maybe it cheapens it a little bit that it was probably some sort of political decision that made it, or governmental decision to make it a holiday and everything, but nevertheless, it's an occasion and it's a good opportunity. Is there any way that a holy person might approach Thanksgiving in a different manner? One of you came up to me after class, I won't point my finger at you and embarrass you, but you can raise your hand if you want the credit, and said, hey, along with those 3 fingers that you were saying pointing, I got a fourth finger to suggest, how about gratitude? I think gratitude could be elevated to a spiritual practice, to very serious spiritual practice. It has been shown to be a powerful therapeutic tool, and there are counselors and clinical psychologists who prescribe exercises in gratitude for people that are depressed and people that are anxious, and some other conditions as well. What would happen though if, rather than having a vague sense of gratitude, you made it more concrete and wrote in your journal, or someplace that is special, not just a piece of scrap paper, but someplace that has some meaning when you write there. You write a list of things that you're profoundly grateful for, and then in each one you say, yeah, if that was gone, that'd be a problem. And in point of fact, not everybody through history has had this thing which I have. Not everybody has it now. And I have it. Do you, as a holy person, do you, as a follower of Jesus, have to make sure that there's nothing good in your life unless every other person has it in theirs? Is that necessary? Do you have to move out of your house because somewhere there's people that are refugees and homeless people, down in Napa? You don't. I don't think that's called for. But how you relate to what you have is an issue. And when Jesus talks about the fact that it's really tough for a rich person to become part of his kingdom, when that's tough, keep in mind that the people he was referring to as rich in his day, poor people in many cases have more than those people have. There's things that nobody had then that nearly everybody has now. The wealthiest person on the planet would have traded all of their wealth for any one of several things that you and I have always had, in most cases. What does that say for how difficult it would be to really follow him and just be a normal person today? Well, how's it going? Who's really following him? How many people do you see that really, his values are their values? They've given it all up to really follow him? Or is it more likely that most people are selfish and greedy and dishonest when it's convenient? Gratitude, giving thanks in every situation, giving thanks for everything that you have, would really require fully keeping the 10th commandment. What's the 10th commandment? Not the covenant. We said this before. This is not the first time we said it in this room together as a class. But covetousness is the thing that robs you of happiness most directly among all 10 commandments. If you go back through the other 9, they can make you unhappy. They can result in situations that make you unhappy. They can bring a lot of pain to others also. But the 10th one is actually at the very mechanism of what makes you happy or unhappy. If your way of approaching every situation, every experience, every second of your life where you're having experiences, if you run that experience through the following algorithm, whatever is not what I want. Whatever I have or whatever I'm experiencing right now, that is not what makes me happy. Then you can be guaranteed that as long as what is, you will never be happy. That's a guarantee. It's a mechanism for unhappiness, guaranteed 100%. So that is tricky because it gets punctuated with just a few times in our life where our ship comes in and we really do say, doggone it, I made my first million. Or, she said yes. You know? Or you both say I do. Or the baby is born. So it props up the illusion with a lot of pleasure at a certain point. But that kind of stuff, if you take two people who are not really happy with the way things are, and they together, they make an exception that lasts for a few hours or for a few days or for a 2-week honeymoon or whatever. And then they settle into making a life together. That moment where people said I do and everything was all frosting and cake and pictures and professionally done makeup and all of that. It isn't going to take very long if what is not what makes each of these people happy, until that other person is what you have and you're used to, and that won't make you happy. And then you start looking for someone else, even in your heart. If it's just in your eye and in your heart won't be faithful. Your heart can't be faithful. You won't make an exception for just that one avenue of your life. It won't be, yes, everything else doesn't make you happy. Well, except that, no. If the mechanism is still there and in force to not be happy at every moment, no matter what you have, no matter what the reality is, even if you're in trouble or it's a bad time or you have just lost something or somebody very important. If your habit, if your programming is to have that be what does not make you happy, then you will not have a satisfying relationship for very long, ever in your life, with anyone. You may say, well, but I do want what other people have. I'm not really happy with the car that I drive, or the way I look, or the amount of money my family has, or whatever. I'm not happy with everything in my major. I was hoping it would be different. I'm not happy with the amount of intelligence I have in my head, or the sound of my voice when I listen to it on tape, or whatever, on my iPhone. But I do love my parents and my grandparents, you know. I'm never dissatisfied that they're who they are and everything. That's not a very real test, because those are people that biologically, in many cases, love you unconditionally. Because you are them. You're not quite to the place where you start recognizing somebody else as an extension of you and their accomplishments as yours that you give yourself and other people give you credit for. But that's a false test, because your parents regard you as the best part of them. And so that's not a real test of how you're going to be in relationships. And if you can't even get that one right, though, you got a pretty good idea that you got some work to do before you're going to get any others right. If people are loving you like that, and you're dissatisfied with them and the way they love you, then it's going to be a tough haul when you get into a relationship with someone who's in it for themselves, like you're in it for yourself. So, would it be possible, and would it be helpful to actually go through, not in a trite way like you've heard people suggest it in church, you know, several times in the last few years, and a little sort of pastel painted little thin little hardback books from the Book and Bible store and everything, where it tells you to do that, and then another thing it tells you to make a wish when you blow a thistle and the seeds, you know. It's not that ethereal stuff. I mean, for real, industrial strength, holy person activity, can you actually wrestle with actual gratitude, actual contentment? Here's an opportunity. There's a holiday that's supposedly for them. Yes, ma'am?
Sorry, only ask that question. I just thought of it a time when I actually believed I was not Christian.
You actually believe you were in which?
In the, like, back.
Yes, tell me.
So, when I was, growing up, this is really personal, but growing up, my parents were divorced, I was raised with my parents, my mom was going through a lot. And so she was around. I remember when, every year for Thanksgiving, we have a church program, like at 6 a.m., so we've been going to that our whole lives.
Yeah.
And we were there, and like, we were with my sister and my grandparents, and they do this thing, like, everyone goes up there and gives testimonies about for the year, blah, 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 right?
Yes.
And then, like, I just remember wishing, I was young, I was like 12 or something, and I remember wishing that my mom was there, because we haven't seen her in a while.
Oh, man.
And then felt like this weird feeling, and I looked, my mom entered the church, and I was like, oh wow, like she's here. Everyone was confused. You know, the church family knows what's going on.
They're all part of the story.
Yeah, and then, so I went up as a 12-year-old, like most times it's just the old people I feel like they're just and I was just like, oh, I'm grateful because my mom's here today.
Wow.
And like tears were like going everywhere, and as a kid I was kind of like, why is everyone crying? Like, what's going on? You don't usually know the full story. I just knew as a kid that my mom showed up, and I didn't know she was gonna show up that day. So like.
And some people in the church might have known more of the story
Right.
than you know today.
Right, so then at that moment, like looking back now, it's like, at that moment, I wasn't thankful for the gifts I was gonna get 3 weeks later,
Yeah.
or even for my birthday that was coming up. It was like, I was grateful because I actually felt like God answered like a prayer that I was
Wow.
probably saying.
That's powerful. That's a wonderful example, and I'm sure all of us are honored that you would share that with us. That touches my heart. One element there is that you had something that day that you didn't always get. It went over the top for your normal expectations. That helps us sometimes. When something abnormal comes along, you feel really grateful. I mean, I can remember in 6th grade that, and you know, we all feel kind of special, many of us at least, unless our homes are pretty messed up. We have a certain gratitude when it's the holidays, even if there's things that are going wrong. You know, it's some holidays and it's special and we can have a good time. And, you know, unless the holidays mean our parents are just going to get drunk and not come home, you know, which happens, but not for most of us. And in 6th grade, there was another 6th grader, a young lady that I had my affections focused upon. And it's that one of those situations where you write the note the night before to give to the person to tell them, you know, how it all is. And I had written that note most nights, and then it would be in my pocket, and it would get sweaty at recess, you know, through my pocket, and it never got delivered. You'd think, and then for some reason, the opportunity comes and goes, and you didn't do it. He didn't come through. But the last day before Thanksgiving, before Thanksgiving break, I was just heading to get up on the bus, and out of the corner of my eye, I saw somebody approaching. I turned, and it was that girl. And she was looking nervous and kind of smiling. She handed me a little note. And I took it in my fat little 11-year-old fingers, and he said, Happy Thanksgiving. She said, Happy Thanksgiving. And I watched her walk away, and I said, man, she's such a little cutie. And I got up on the bus, and I pulled my coat like this so that other people couldn't see. And I turned on my little pen light, and I opened it, and all it said was, I like you. With a heart. I was so thankful that Thanksgiving. Man, somebody liked me. So those kind of things, the ones that give you electricity in your stomach. Things you've been praying for, like you were praying probably many ways for your mom. Praying about her, for her, specific hopes, and one of them happened at just the right time. And those kinds of things that make good little holiday special stories on the TV.
What about for the people who, lost all their family to genocide, or part of someone not really rich family, or already know when Thanksgiving come around, they're gonna be by themselves. Like, when I think about the majority of people, probably got in car accident or whatnot, like, can we really be grateful for all the bad things that are constantly happening, the things that we constantly don't consider? I feel, amnesty, like, have so many people who be writing letters for him. And do we actually, as a whole school body, probably not, probably only 40 students.
Do we as a world?
Yeah.
I have an almost related story that might, there's no answer to your question, by the way. It's a question that's important to ask and then to keep asking and dwelling on it and letting it dwell in us. But I have a story that puts a log on the fire. I'll tell it in a moment.
I have a story to tell you too. One time in the academy, I went on a mission trip to Haiti,
Yes.
and it was during Thanksgiving break.
Ooh.
And it was 2 years right after the big earthquake that happened.
Yes.
And so, but being a third world country is still really bad out there and stuff. And we went with ADRA, and we were building T-homes or contemporary homes to get people out of the streets.
Yes.
And we built a couple houses that week, and we hired some construction workers that were from Haiti,
Yes.
so they could get paid as well. And one of the guys that was in charge of my group, he was this little man, like tinier than me, and you could tell that I was talking to him, I speak French as well, so we were speaking to each other, and he told me that he lost his family in that earthquake, his whole family, his parents, his siblings, his wife, his kids, everyone died, he's the only one that survived. So at this moment, I'm giving him a story of Job, right, and I'm trying to talk about that, and then I was like, but how are you smiling every day when you come to work for us? Like, how is that happening? And he was saying that after the earthquake, like, the Adventist community was one of the communities that didn't get affected by the earthquake as much. The campus was amazing how it's still in place. So they did a lot of, like, outreach to the community. And he was like, I got close to God, and he was telling me how, like, even though he lost everyone, like, he literally goes home to his home that fell apart, and he's the only one that's there. And he said, I just know that everything's gonna be okay though, because my life was, like, that's kind of stuff like I lived. There's a lot of you that do better for them, and like, living in their honor and stuff like that. And it's just kind of like, I was thinking, if I was in that position where I lost everyone, and like, I now know no one, I wouldn't want to live.
Yeah.
Like, that's just being realistic. I would not want to live with the fact that he was able to come to work every day. So he would have to walk 2 hours every morning to get to the construction site that we worked at. And he had a smile on his face, he was sharing his food, he was very like, just such a happy person. And I was like, are you okay in the head type of situation?
Yeah.
So it's just kind of funny because like, he's been through a lot, and he doesn't have much, even with that little job that he had. His shoes didn't fit him. Like, they were so big for him, and he still made it work. It's the point where, like, at the end of the week, I gave him his shoes. He was just so happy to have shoes, and I didn't think about, like, oh my goodness, I even give him socks. But that's something that I was thinking, like, oh, I can't wear shoes without socks. But to him, he's like, oh, this works perfect. So it's just amazing, like, he went through everything very this week. He touched my heart instead, Thanksgiving week.
Will you ever have a Thanksgiving without thinking about those two memories?
Probably not. I mean, it's been like that Thanksgiving, the one in Haiti was 5 years ago now, and I honestly feel like it was yesterday, and I still write that guy occasionally.
Wow.
Like he really impacted my life in a weird way. And then my mom every year, because she's still who she is.
You know where she is? Huh?
Yeah, I know she is. Like she's better now. She got remarried and she's more stable, but we still don't have a good relationship. So it's kind of like, I don't know if we're fighting or not this week.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
talk about, the example of the man who lived not far from the flashing red light at the Barney Hill, who was dying of AIDS. And I took a group of prep students and we went and did some work to landscape his front yard and get the weeds out that the neighbors were complaining of and all that. And he was another mystery of why would you say that now that you're gonna die, you can't work. He had a great career actually in San Francisco. He had a great career and he had plenty of money and everything, and life was kind of set for him. And now he's gonna die in weeks or a few months. And he says it's the best thing ever. Have you ever wondered why, even if you have a pretty good situation right now, if you're going, okay, I'm not screwed up right now, you know, things are pretty smooth, so how come I'm not really happy? Because you worry about what? You worry about that thing.
Kind of going off of what that guy went through, this past year, my little brother went through the same thing. Like on his 19th birthday, he was diagnosed with cancer.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and, like, ever since then, his relationship with God is like out of the roof, you know? And he, like, thanks God for everything that he does. And, it's inspired, like, not only me, but my entire family, like, we have nothing to complain about, you know?
What is the prognosis?
Hodgkin's lymphoma.
It is Hodgkin's?
Yeah.
Is it responding to treatment?
Yeah, he just, he's finished his treatment, and then in December we'll find out if it's all gone. Yeah, but it just goes to show that, like, even through his circumstance, his relationship with God is a lot stronger, and when he sees people, like, living a life that's, not very, like, fulfilling, like, life fulfilling, he, like, get really personal inside. Because we had a family member who just, like, going through, like, the motions of life, and ended up, like, in prison and stuff, and, like, that just broke his heart, you know?
Wow.
Yeah.
When somebody who's a decent person, who's kind of lovable, gets really screwed over by life, or by somebody, they're victimized or whatever, the compassion just flows from us when they're in a bad situation. It can, you know, touch our hearts and everything. What about people that are beneath contempt, hateful people, that are the nastiest people you can imagine? I mean the nastiest. The ones that in your gut, it would be good news if you heard that they got killed. Does that touch you with compassion? Then you think, oh, I wouldn't be like that. Okay, I